Hello folks, and welcome to my review of the all-new Hyundai Kona. This one's the 1.6 petrol version and it comes in N-Line S spec. They start from £25,725. This one is about 34 grand. What do you think of the looks? It really has taken an all-new approach to the design and is quite a bit more modern looking on the front end, and certainly has its similarities to some other Hyundai and Kia cars. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. In this N-Line S model, we've got these lovely part leather, part Alcantara seats. They're really comfortable, plenty of adjustment. You've got decent lower lumbar support. All you could ask for in a car seat, really, folks. As for the rest of it, I actually prefer the outgoing model's interior, if I'm being completely honest. Some of the materials in here feel more budget than you would expect to find on a Hyundai, and the overall layout just feels a little bit old-fashioned. Don't get me wrong, the twin screens that we've got here are an absolute triumph. The sat-nav infotainment system, media system, everything else that you get in a standard Hyundai car these days is really quite good, like really good, much better than something you'd find in a VW, for example. And the driver information display, it's nice, it's crisp, it's clear, it's modern. But once you get beneath those screens, it all starts to go a little bit wrong, in my personal opinion. You've got this sort of layout here, which is great because you've got physical buttons and dials. So let's not knock that, because it's something that's sadly lacking from a lot of cars. But it feels a bit sort of, I don't know, 1990s car stereo, the way it's laid out. I'm not sure what it is about it. The little screen here for the aircon almost looks like the place where you stick your cassette in, and it just feels a little bit dated. Down here you've got a nice low centre console with a couple of cup holders. They push out to grab your cup. That's quite nicely done. You've got easy access to your drive and traction controls. Everything's sort of there, but it just doesn't feel particularly well designed. And as I say, the material quality, this feels very light. The material quality and some of the plastics they've used are not the standards you might expect from Hyundai in 2023. Up here, for example, this is like very, very scratchy plastic. It just doesn't have that sort of tactile feel that we've come to expect. By all means, it's still better than you find in some cars, but it's just a little bit of a disappointment for someone that's spent time in quite a lot of Hyundai vehicles and been really quite impressed by them. Now, despite the fact I'm not blown away by the materials that they've used or by some aspects of the layout of the interior, it is absolutely loaded with kit in this N-Line S model. We've got heated and cooled seats, heated steering wheel, you've got different drive modes, 2 USB connections, they're both USB-C. This one here is just for power only, and then this one randomly has got a button to switch between power only and actual data. So if you want to plug in your phone, for example, which you need to do if you want to use Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, because they are wired and not wireless, unfortunately. Over here there's a little shelf, which is actually quite handy, and a small glove box. The steering wheel is lovely. It's a really nice steering wheel. It feels a little bit like the wheels you find in VW group cars, which I like a lot. But you've got some really nice quality materials here. If only they'd taken this and put it here, it would have been a bit nicer. So you've got metal little knurled dials here and thumb switches. Everything's laid out beautifully. It's really well done. It feels premium and it looks quite premium. We've also got Bose stereo system in this car, which performs admirably well. In all, it's a really nice, comfortable cabin. It's extremely well spec'd, but maybe just the execution of it could have been a little bit better. Jump into the rear cabin and there's lots to like. There's tons of foot-room, like plenty of foot-room, really good knee room, lots of headroom, super comfortable seat, which has also got seat heating. Something you probably wouldn't necessarily expect in the rear seats for a car in this class. And then we've got a nice centre armrest. It's really comfortable. 2 USB-Cs down there and a little sort of storage cubby. And you've got these nets on the back of the seat for yet more storage. Moving into the middle seat, you've got a big transmission tunnel. So you do have to share foot space with the outermost passengers. and the middle seat is quite hard, but you could certainly get 3 across the back here for a short journey without too many problems. The boot space in the new Kona is quite an upgrade from the outgoing model. We've now got 466 litres on offer. You've also got a really generous underfloor storage area there. Nice big easy space to get things in and out of. There's no load lip, it is completely flat. You've got a fairly trad parcel shelf here, which is easy enough to take off. And I dare say you could probably fit that underneath the floor there. Just before we look at the test drive, let's take a look at the numbers on this. So 0 to 62 times 7.8 seconds. We've got 198 PS of power in this petrol version. There's also a hybrid version and the all-new electric version, it's on its way. The MPG figures fairly respectable at 44.8 combined WLTP when you consider it's got that much power on board. You're obviously going to get nothing like that around town, you know, expect low 30s, but on a run, you know, numbers in the 40s are easily achievable. So we're now going down a bit of an unmade road here, just coming out of a car park on the edge of the New Forest. And this is extremely bumpy, but I just want to highlight something to you really. And that's that this car doesn't do an amazing job of soaking up the bumps. It's not the firmest suspension I've ever seen. It's not even the firmest suspension in its class, but it is a lot firmer than you might expect from a Kona. Now I can only think that the chassis and suspension have been designed with the forthcoming Kona N in mind, which will be obviously the very hot hatch version. The last version of the Kona N was absolutely brilliant, so I dare say the new one will be. In general terms, the ride's comfortable enough for most people, but it's a bit firmer than you expect for what is a slightly raised family hatchback. You'll hear the car binging and bonging occasionally here, and it's annoying. It bings and bongs quite a lot. There is a little camera down here that faces the driver, and that's constantly suggesting that I need a coffee. And it's telling me I need a coffee when I've been driving for about 2 minutes sometimes, so I think that's a little bit flawed. My driving's not really that bad, and it also does things like remind you to keep your eyes on the road and that kind of stuff, which is all well and good. Now obviously you can turn these frustrations off, but they require button presses as per the new Euro NCAP laws. And for me, it's just very frustrating. And sometimes they can be very distracting. If it's all in the name of safety, I'm not sure that it's always the safest way of doing things, if I'm completely honest. Now the steering's okay, it's not particularly engaging, it's a wee bit vague, but for most of the target audience of this car, it'll be absolutely fine. It's got blind spot cameras, which is a safety feature that I think should be in everything. Forget about lane departure warnings that bing and bong at you. Yeah, blind spot cameras are something that a lot of other brands could learn from, because they work exceptionally well in this. We've seen it in lots of Kia, Hyundai and Genesis cars, and it's a safety feature that you use on a day-to-day basis. Shut up. I also have to say the sound insulation's not fantastic. You get a fair amount of tyre rumble and wind noise when you're driving the car, and you can also hear the other traffic a bit. So yeah, it could have been a tiny bit better. But aside from all that, folks, it's a pleasant enough thing to drive. You might think this is a negative review of the car, and it's not. This is a very good car, and it would compare very well against lots of its rivals. If you were to get in this, getting a new Astra, getting a Focus, they all drive well. They're all good cars. What I expected for this was for it to be a little bit better, because I feel like the outgoing model felt a tiny bit more premium than this one. The point I'm trying to really badly make is that this is not a bad car, it's a very good car. It just hasn't quite lived up to what were quite high expectations from me. It's a pretty decent package. It does most things that most people are going to need a car to do. For me, it just feels like a little bit of a disappointment and a rare miss from Hyundai, whose cars I generally hold in very high regard. It is a good car, don't get me wrong, but there are certainly some missed opportunities here. Things like that interior quality and the interior layout, I think just could have been a tiny bit better. But if you want a practical car that's not going to murder you on MPG, it's certainly worth having a look. If you're interested in leasing a new Hyundai Kona, Please click the link to Lease Loco that's in the video description and pinned as a top comment. Help support the channel. Please give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll catch you on the next one.